world, the future that he has already realized would have been inconceivable for Mike Tyson. From the streets of Brooklyn to a juvenile delinquent school in upstate New York, Mike Tyson was more apt to become a criminal than a champion. In 1980, however, at the age of 13, he first displayed the interest and power to be a boxer, and he was introduced to legendary trainer Cus D'Amato. A father-son relationship developed and did the birth of a great fighter.
I don't know if it's born to be a champion, but I have that in mind, but I'm at least born to be a fighter.
By 15, he was already known for his quick and paralyzing knockout punch, such as only 9 seconds in the first round of his junior Olympic championship. As an amateur, he was exciting. As a pro, devastating.
But a fellow with this type of competitive spirit, plus the knowledge that he has gained and the punching power, I can't see him lose.
But he wouldn't see enough. Cus D'Amato, the most influential person in Tyson's life, died shortly after his 10th pro fight.
Cus always strived. He said, you could be the champ, even at a young age. And I believed in him. I developed that kind of confidence in him. And he just made it, that was the destiny, no matter whatever happened. And he discussed times that he wasn't feeling well and he doesn't think he's going to be around. But he said, no matter what, the job must go on.
Over the next 21 months, that destiny was achieved. Tyson became the youngest heavyweight champion in history, and then the holder of all 3 heavyweight titles.
My mission is to go and destroy and not to let anything get involved. You get punched, you get hurt. I refuse to be hurt, knocked down, and knocked out. I can't lose. I refuse to lose.
Along with fame and fortune came the bliss of marriage and expected fatherhood, and also some problems. They began in March when Tyson's co-manager, Jim Jacobs, died of leukemia. Jacobs had not only become a big brother figure, but the champion's foremost protector.
When Jimmy was around, nobody wanted to come around me because it was forbidden to even come around me. Jimmy wasn't allowed. Now everybody wants to come around me and say, oh, I can do this for you, I can help you this way.
Since Jacobs' death, conflict has arisen behind the scenes. Is the new Mrs. Tyson and/or Don King trying to lure him away from his longtime manager, Bill Caton?
The situation which occurred here is really not a problem. Everyone else makes bigger issues than what they really are. You know what I mean? Don King's not my manager. Bill Caton's my manager. Will always be my manager as long as I'm fighting. Don King's my promoter.
There's a downside to his celebrity. For example, this story about a car accident said to have occurred during a domestic quarrel with his wife.
If something gets out of hand, I guess it gets put in the paper. You know what I mean? People are so ludicrous. They're out of their mind. You just have to look at the statements, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? It's unbelievable.
Whatever the case, at this point in time, Mike Tyson should have only one thing in mind: Michael Spinks. But is that the case?
And I believe in my mind, I'm the only one that's level-headed. Everybody else is losing their mind. Everybody else is paranoid. And even whatever I do, it's going to be my decision. Because I break my leg, we all stop getting paid. And even though we're friends, the main issue here is money. This is a business. Everybody wants to make money. Don't care if I have $50 million in the bank or $20 million. Everyone could always use a dollar.
Yes, a breathtaking figure that most of the human race couldn't even dream of. And there'll be yet more to come if Tyson keeps winning. But this time, the man lurking in his way is another fighter who's never been beaten, Michael Spinks.
Michael Spinks isn't an ordinary fighter.
I don't want to go home. I don't want to go. I don't want to go here. I know y'all thought I was cracking up, eh?
His style is intelligently unorthodox. His approach to life, as well as boxing, is unusually open-minded. The combination has brought him to the top of his profession.
As a kid, I did a lot of things a certain way, and a lot of things didn't work out. So when I did try to do something a little different, I learned that it works better.
He learned a lot in the ghettos of St. Louis. When older brother Leon would beat someone up, the victim frequently sought vengeance against the smaller Michael. Eventually, they both became fighters, and in 1976, they became the first brothers to win gold medals in the same Olympics. In 1981, after taking time off to help his brother, Michael became light heavyweight champion. 2 years later, he had to deal with the death part of life. Suddenly, he was a single parent.
When Michelle would ask me, where's her mommy? Where's Sandy? And right then and there, I couldn't hold on, and I would break down. That was more difficult for me to deal with than anything else.
2 months after the tragedy, Spinks went through what was his hardest fight until then. He defeated the dangerous Dwight Braxton to become the undisputed light heavyweight champion. But for the real big bucks, like all light heavyweights through history, he would have to fight a heavyweight, the dominant heavyweight champion Larry Holmes. But since no light heavyweight champion had ever won the heavyweight title, Spinks chose to move up in weight through an unorthodox training program.
I feel well equipped for what I have to do so far. And I know, I mean, as weeks pass or days go by, I'm getting better, I'm getting stronger, I'm feeling better.
At 200 hard pounds, Michael Spinks was a legitimate heavyweight. But when the bell rang, it was his heart and skill that really mattered most. In one of boxing's big upsets, Spinks ended Larry Holmes' 7-year reign. He won by a unanimous decision.
You can't ever succeed in life or ever do anything in your life if you don't try. So I said, I'm going to try.
The creation of the Heavyweight Unification Series brought Holmes and Spinks together again. 6 months later, the rematch was held. Spinks again was the underdog, and again the winner, this time in a very controversial decision. In the last 2 years, he has only fought twice, a total of 9 rounds. Here in the 4th round knockout of Stephen Tankstead, followed by another KO of a lumbering giant, Jerry Cooney, which is why some supporters still see Spinks as the champion. His record, 31-0. Tyson's 34-0.
June 27th will be a very sad day for anybody. It's a must that someone's O must go.
Someone's O must go. And a reminder, you can see what should be...
Throwing his weight around yet again. Now Tyson defends his heavyweight titles against Michael Spinks in Atlantic City in the early hours of tomorrow morning. Just for the record books, when they weighed in yesterday, Tyson scotched rumours of slackness in training, looking trim at 15 stone 8 3/4. Spinks, well, he's 3 inches taller. He weighed in at 5 stone 2 1/2. It was
seekers from the major cities of the eastern seaboard of the United States, New York, Philadelphia, and Washington. And it also stages the most anticipated boxing extravaganza for years. Slugger Mike Tyson against the boxer Michael Spinks. And that fight is just hours away in the convention center behind me. It is not just a fight, it's an event. Indeed, it's the richest sports event ever staged. They give it the tag once and for all. And when it's over, there'll be no doubt as to who is the undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. Atlantic City fought off the challenge of Las Vegas to stage this colossal affair, which has taken 2 years to make. The glittering gambling mecca of the East Coast had the mega bucks and the 22,000-seater convention center. Mike Tyson was scheduled to meet Michael Spinks in the heavyweight title unification process, but Spinks opted out. He was then stripped of his IBF crown. And then, in June of 1987, he took on a multi-million-dollar fight with the lumbering Jerry Cooney. He won it in 5 rounds and was now proclaiming himself the people's champion. But he and his flamboyant manager, Butch Lewis, had to take a back seat while Mike Tyson started collecting his world title belts.
motivation is to go and destroy and not to let anything get involved. You get punched, you get hurt. I refuse to be hurt, knocked down, and knocked out. I can't lose. I refuse to lose.
It was after Mike Tyson's demolition of Larry Holmes that his handlers, Bill Caton and Jim Jacobs, decided it was time to resume negotiations with Spinks manager Butch Lewis, an exercise Jacobs described as a tortuous and agonizing experience. Money was inevitably the stumbling block, but after much wrangling, the richest fight in boxing history was made. Then tragedy struck when Jim Jacobs, who had taken over Tyson's affairs when his old mentor, Customato, died, himself succumbed to leukemia. Since then, there's been conflict behind the scenes. Tyson has fallen out with his manager, Bill Caton. His wife, Robin Gibbons, has suffered a miscarriage, and there have been stormy rumors that his mother-in-law, Ruth Roper, has now taken over his business affairs. Despite the turmoil and news to the contrary, Tyson remains calm.
And I believe, Mama, I'm the only one that's level-headed. Everybody else is losing their mind. Everybody else is paranoid. And even whatever I do, it's going to be my decision. Because I break my leg, we all stop getting paid. And even though we're friends, the main issue here is money. This is a business. Everybody wants to make money. Don't care if I have $50 million in the bank or $20 million. Everyone could always use a dollar.
So it's all about money, but that's hardly surprising when you consider that Mike Tyson will receive $23 million for this fight, and Michael Spinks will get $13.5 million. With me is Jim Watt. Well, with all this conflict, it's hardly the best preparation for a title fight for Tyson, is it, Jim?
I don't suppose it is, Dickie, but I don't think Tyson will be affected by it at all. He's had to deal with personal problems in the past, the deaths of Customato and Jim Jacobs, and still got on with the job. He's managed to do that. He has a perfect temperament for a fighter, the perfect attitude. I think if these personal problems have any effect on him, will probably make him more spiteful, more determined, and more of a handful, I feel.
He's certainly motivated by the desire to hurt, isn't he?
Yeah, well, he seems to have been saying things like that recently. I think especially against Spinks. I think Spinks has been a thorn in his flesh for a long time. People have been saying, you know, Spinks is the people's champion. Well, I think it's Butch Lewis who's been saying that mainly. I think everybody accepts Tyson as champion, but he won't feel champion until he disposes of Michael Spinks.
So what about Michael Spinks? Well, his style inside the ring is unorthodox, and out of it, he has a far from ordinary personality. He's undefeated, so it must be a winning combination. And it's held him in good stead since his young days in the ghettos of St. Louis. Whatever the experts feel about Michael Spinks' chances, he's got to be considered the top contender for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. Despite all the pre-fight hype, he remains philosophical.
June 27th will be a very sad day for anybody. It's a must that someone's must go, mine or his.
Spinks doesn't have the look of a confident challenger, does he, Jim?
No, he doesn't really have the look of a confident challenger. When you hear of a fighter talking about retirement before a match such as this, then you have to have some doubts about him.
What case can you make for his chances in this fight?
Well, in the past, Tyson has had problems with evasive and awkward challengers. Now, they don't come any more evasive or any more awkward than Michael Spinks. He really has perfected the most awkward style in the world. He's undefeated, so he must have a belief in himself. No undefeated fighter doesn't have a belief in themselves, so he must give himself a great chance. And as I say, he has the style to at least trouble Tyson.
In fact, at the weigh-in, Michael Spinks surprised many people by skating 15 stones, 2 1/4 pounds, and that's the heaviest he's ever been for a fight. On the other hand, Mike Tyson was at a weight that surprised no one. 15 stones, 8 1/4 pounds. So now we've come in from the beach into the heart of this convention center, which in 5 hours from now will be filled with 22,000 fight fans who've paid $13 million to see the fight, and that is a record. So who will win, Jim, and why?
Well, I feel Spinks has the talent, the speed and the awkwardness to give Tyson some problems early on. A few rounds could go by before Tyson finally lands some clean punches on Spinks' chin, but I feel eventually the strength the man has, the power, will prove too much for Spinks, and it will begin to take over. I think also when you get to the bottom line, Tyson wants to win that bit more than Spinks does. I would expect a Tyson victory any time after the 6th round.
One final question, Jim. Do you think that Spinks can hurt Tyson?
I don't think so. Full-blooded heavyweights haven't managed to hurt Tyson. I still don't look upon Spinks as a true heavyweight. I don't think he has any chance of hurting Tyson.
Jim, thank you very much indeed. Well, now, the only man to have fought both Tyson and Spinks is the former world heavyweight champion Larry Holmes. Of course, he was beaten by both, too. How does he think it will go?
I think this will sum it all up. Spinks jinx, there's nothing to it. The whole world knows he won't do it. He'll run around the ring for a few rounds, but Mike Tyson will run him down.
Well, few fights could have been prefaced with such speculation and created so much interest. This $100 million encounter is not...
A bit relieved that he's made it to the ring without any problems there. I wondered if he was late coming in. And there's the rundown of his record, of course, undefeated, mostly as a light heavyweight. He made 10 defenses of the light heavyweight championship. And there's Muhammad Ali giving the man his best wishes, and Ali is one of the people who thinks he's got a good chance. Obviously, it's not a similar style to Ali. Nobody was quite that good, but he's got the most awkward and difficult style. And all the celebrities now have been introduced. It took them all day to sort out the seats for the heavy gamblers and the celebrities, and I tell you, the fellow who tried to do that, well, I think the fellow who did the head count on Noah's Ark had an easier job. Yes, there's Tyson now. Then he loves that thumping music as it comes in there, doesn't he? At one point he wanted no music and wanted his own gladiatorial entrance, Tyson. But that's the kind of intimidating music that was asked for, apparently, and I think he can do that without the record.
Would Mr. Donald Trump please come into the ring? Mr. Donald Trump, please come up into the ring.
And there he is, barebacked as usual, and the famous 19 3/4 inch neck. A man from the Times where he says, well, it looks a bit like the oval gasometer, and he's right. It looks big enough to fight any lightweights, his neck, doesn't it? What a procession this guy can do that. As he pushes his way through there, he really does sweat like a horse. This incredible man who's not 22 until Thursday. Well, not 97 days, can you imagine that? It doesn't bother him too much. It's just last week as far as he's concerned. And finally, the whole crowd can see him, the people in what they call the bleachers up here, the balconies at $100 a throw, as Mike's record. 15 of those in the first round. Gary Rooney then, the trainer, wearing the baseball cap. And who the great customato, the late passed on his knowledge.
Mr. Donald Trump, Trump Plaza Hotel and Casino on the Boardwalk in Atlantic City, New Jersey. Tonight, Don King Productions presents World Championship Boxing. This bout is presented with the...
Well, Jim is right above us now. He's sweating like a horse again, isn't he, Tyson?
Yeah, well, I think he has in his mind his usual first round. As soon as the first bell sounds, out it goes right down to what he gets on with it. He really has warmed up.
At ringside, President Robert W. Lee. The ringside supervisor, Bill Brennan. The World Boxing Council is represented by President Jose...
Well, he's keeping warm while they're doing the official announcements.
Dr. Elias Cano. The World Boxing Association. Its President Gilberto Mendoza at ringside, along with James Bacon, Esquire Legal Counsel, and Championship Committee Chairman Dr. Elias M. Cordova. The three judges for this contest, John Stewart, Eva Shane, and Rocky Castellani.
So we've got a lady judging here, and she's very experienced.
Also at ringside, Dr. Stanley Allen and Dr.
I think there just might be superfluous there, don't you? Been cut from, hopefully it was going to be 15 rounds, but been cut back to 12 by the New Jersey Commission. Frank Cappuccino from New Jersey, wearing the obligatory rubber gloves now, the anti-AIDS thing.
Responsible for bringing the spectacular event to Atlantic City, and I would like to properly acknowledge
Butch Lewis in his white suit and shirtless is in the ring. Well, if his man won tonight, I wouldn't be surprised if his skin didn't crease.
The art of the deal, his vision and accomplishment make him the quintessential...
And there's Donald Trump, the man who He or his companies put up the mere 11 million site fee to put this on here. And I shouldn't try too much for him. I have a feeling what they call the drop, meaning the gamblers here, the money they take in all the casinos will more than pay for it.
In 1960, an Olympic gold medal winner. In 1964...
And he's sweating heavily too, isn't he, there? As the old professor's put his glasses on, Ali, look at that.
And in 1979, he won it. An unprecedented third time. Perhaps he is the greatest of all time.
Yeah, well, who's arguing? What a reaction he's going to get here. What applause this man's going to get, Ali. And getting down a bit of weight as well, he was there too, I'm pleased to say. Just incredible. It's echoing around here. It's shifting the paint from the rafters, Jim.
He always gets the best cheer of all. No matter who's here, Ali's the man.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, once and for all, let's get ready to rumble 12 rounds for the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. Introducing first, fighting out of the blue corner, wearing the white trunks with black trim, and weighing in at 212 1/4 pounds. He's originally from St. Louis, Missouri, now lives in Wilmington, Delaware. This Olympic gold medal champion has a professional record of 31 victories without a loss, 21 by knockout. He is the former undisputed and undefeated light heavyweight champion of the world and the only king of that division ever to win the heavyweight title in the history of boxing. Because he never lost that title in the ring, he is still recognized by many, including Boxing Illustrated and Ring Magazine, as the heavyweight champion. Ladies and gentlemen, the undefeated man who brings the jigs, Michael Spinks.
The man that brings the jinx, they said, Michael Spinks. Well, we'll find out. That's quite right. A couple of trade magazines still regard him as the champion. I would certainly dispute that.
And fighting out of the red corner, wearing the solid black trunks and weighing 218 1/4 pounds, originally from the streets of Brooklyn. He passed through the hometown of the late great trainer of champions, Costamato, Catskill, New York, and he now lives in North New Jersey. His professional record, 34 consecutive victories with 30 knockouts, including 26 KOs in 5 rounds or less, and 15 in the first round alone. Ladies and gentlemen, presenting the undisputed, the undefeated heavyweight champion of the world, Tyson.
I just love the way that man, he ignores almost, doesn't he? He enjoys living on the edge of everything, you know. I think he likes the smell of danger, and he admits he doesn't mind hurting people either. He's just, well, he's as individual as a fingerprint, this man.
Are there any questions by either of you? I vote these touch gloves.
But unlikely to have any questions time. They pop the gum shields in, or the mouthpieces as they call them here. And at long last, we're on with the Mega Bucks battle. Once and for all it's called, and a prayer offered there by Mike Spinks, a cuddle and a huddle by Kevin Rooney. Very close, this little corner. I admire Tyson for that. Keeps the people he started with. And there's old Eddie Futch on the outside there, and I don't know what he says to them, but all I could say is, look out, here he comes, I think, if I was in the corner. So at long last, the ring's cleared, and we can get on with it. Let's go, says Frank Nicotino. Again, there seems to be this mild horror now. Incredible rise of the crowd. That's the pattern, isn't it? Tyson's going to get straight after him. He's not going to hang around there. And he caught him with the elbow as well there. And the referee spotted it. Forearm, anyway. Spinks won't be able to stand early on anyway and punch it out with him. He's got to get on the move. That's sensible. Oh, the right hand planted in there. He's not going for another one-round winner here. I can't believe this, Mike Tyson. It'll be 16 if he makes it. He doesn't lark about this man. Right above us here as the timekeeper's yelling the count there, and he gets a standing 8 count by Cappuccino. The crowd are going crazy. As much as they paid vast sums to come here with a 1, and he's knocked him out. His head's right above us, and he looks as though he's almost unconscious. And they're not going to get him back up at all there. They're really not. What this man, Tyson, totally unstoppable. Incredible champion, and he says he's only 50% of what he thinks he's going to be. And I must say, I always thought he could walk right in and through Michael Spinks, but no way did I think it'd be as quick as that. And they're putting a stool in the middle of the ring here for Michael Spinks to sit down, and Butch Lewis there, he's guided into that and got there. We made that about 1 minute and 31, I think, the timekeeper in front of me. Jim?
Well, as Spinks came into the ring, I remarked that he looked quite cool. Maybe I was wrong, maybe he was in shock, because he didn't move properly. He didn't do anything properly. Twice he ran into trouble in the round. It was because he led off to Tyson. He led with silly right hands, and each time Tyson put him in trouble. The second time, almost taking his head off and finishing the fight. But I wonder if Spinks committed suicide the way we thought Berbick did.
What a touch that is, Jim. You don't often see Mike Tyson coming in to kiss the man on the... And to be fair to Spinks, he's faced him because he's just had the total humiliation there. Not only his first defeat, but short, sharp, merciless, complete. And I tell you, it's around this ringside here when Tyson fights, it's remarkable. They've just shoved the fellow out there that's crashed right across some commentary positions here. Reno Tomasi from Italy doesn't seem to be too pleased about that. And it's just like a carnival in an alley again here, no matter how much... and it isn't the photographers, they're quite orderly. Right, Jim, here we can have another look at that.
Well, the writing was on the wall in the first knockdown, but that was the second knockdown. The punch caught him high. Tyson got his shoulder behind the punch, and as soon as he went down, the way he went down and the way he just lay there, we knew he wasn't getting up again.
Yeah, now we can look at it now from the close-up angle. There's old Butch Lewis in the white suit on the far side. It just made no difference to him. The way he went down, you knew when the back hits the floor like that he's just not going to make it. All those millions of dollars for 1.5 minutes work, and I know what people are saying, well, I wouldn't mind doing that for that money, but I tell you, you wouldn't if you were facing this man. He is just a remarkable champion, Mike Tyson, and I'm wondering now what Frank Bruno's thinking of this.
See, after the first knockdown, the writing was on the wall because it wasn't even really a very good punch that put him over the first time. There he leads with a silly right hand, overcomes Tyson's short uppercut.
Yes, he led with it and opened his chin to that. That really was a mistake for a fellow with a good boxing brain like him. I am staggered. So all these people are telling...